about a year ago doing this, I had a great idea that was given to me, just dropped out of the sky. And that idea is we need to start doing lineman safety national webinars. And the reason why is because after 6 years, I can't do it all. I leave my wife, I'm traveling, I'm gone, and I'm away from her about 50% of the work days of the year. And it's like ridiculous. And I can't do it all. We can't do it all. So what we did is I went to, and this is really a cool thing what we started here. I went to the best safety trainers, safety directors, and safety speakers, and safety consultants and utility consultants, contracting consultants in the United States. Jimmy Vaughn, Danny Rains, and many, many more, Mac Turner. And I told them I got this idea about a little over a year ago. I got this idea, and this idea is we want to do lineman safety national webinars. And you guys going to help me because we can't do it all. We're going to form a line team. And you guys are going to fly out to South Carolina, and once a month, one of you guys are going to speak for free. And then whoever is a member of Electric Culture of Safety, ECOS, right here, whoever's a member, they get that training. They get that webinar. They can watch it live. They get all the recordings. They share it with all their linemen, and it costs them nothing. And you got your companies are going to sponsor it. Your companies are going to endorse this, and you guys are going to do it. What do you guys think? And they all said, okay, we're in. So we've been doing this now. We got almost 5,000 members. SCE, we got Excel Energy just endorsed this about a month ago or so. And they share all these recordings, different speakers and subjects with their linemen, and it doesn't cost nothing. So SCE, you guys need to get involved. We got Mr. Dan Taylor's coming in 2 weeks. He's going to talk about the changes in personal protective grounding. All right, so that's a good subject. We got 13 webinars, recordings. Just email me. I got my card here. Email me. I'll send them to you. I'll register you, and there's no cost. What do you think? A little company, family company can do this nationwide. That's kind of cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the grounds tester. We're going to talk about your temporary protective grounds. And these here, we're going to call these a best friend. Your TPGs are a best friend. This is kind of interesting. Dan Taylor is going to be talking about these in a couple weeks. That's going to be interesting. We got some good speakers. But anyways, if you go to your OSHA regs, 1910.269. OSHA, these 1910.269, your OSHA regs, we're going to consider these the lineman scriptures. All right, these are the scriptures for linemen. These right here were made and produced because someone got hurt or died. So that's why we have these. These are to be considered a foundation. A foundation, in other words, a starting point, a must-have starting point. SCE, they're going to take this foundation and they're going to customize it. They're going to customize it and add to it. They're going to make it into their own program, but this is the foundation of your program, all right? But you're going to customize it for your folks. So if you go down to lowercase n talks about your TPGs, temporary protective grounds. And if you go down to number 4, lowercase I, it talks about how the IEEE 1048 right here and the ASTM F855 are guidelines. So the guidelines, those two guidelines are part of the regs. And in those guidelines, you'll read about how it's important for your folks to visually inspect their TPGs prior to use and to mechanically inspect your TPGs prior to use. That's important. Now, after 6 years, the crazy thing is, coast to coast, even here in California, can't say any names, but there was companies, municipalities, electric cooperatives, even IOUs that before we showed up were not training their linemen to visually inspect nor mechanically inspect, or one or the other, their TPGs on a regular basis. That's crazy. And then what's amazing is that when I start sharing these things, as far as the guidelines, start sharing these things, they'll say, wow, that's new to us. So they bring their TPGs off the truck. And then when they show me their TPGs off the truck that they never visually inspected, they didn't know, or mechanically inspected, they weren't told. I mean, this is recent stuff. You think it's like caveman stuff. It's not. It's like now modern man, okay? And anyways, the things that we're going to talk about regarding TPGs, you don't want to see. And these are the things that I see when they bring them off the trucks. You do not want to see on your TPGs, you don't want to see any bubble jacket where they got too hot. I have not seen that yet, but that's the only thing I haven't seen. The other things that we're going to talk about, I've seen everywhere. You don't want to see any broken copper strands. You don't want to see any blackened copper or patinaed copper. You don't want to see any oxidization on your components or visual cracks in your clamps or loose components that you can see that they're loose just by looking at them. You don't want to see any smashed cable or pinched cable on your TPGs. All right, so you don't want to see any of those things. The mechanical, that's the visual. The mechanical inspection, you're going to actually grab a hold of your assembly. You know these clamps are made by Bierer now? We got our own forgery. They're pretty cool. So anyways, got our own cable and ferrules too. But anyways, what you want to do in mechanical inspection, you're going to grab a hold of that clamp and you're going to make sure you cannot spin it off of the ferrule. Make sure it's nice and tight. And again, I've been to utilities to where we do electrical testing on their TPGs and the TPG fails. The reason why they failed is because the components were loose. They weren't tight. And they didn't know that they were to be inspected mechanically. They didn't know. So now they do. All right, so that's good. So you also don't want to, when you grab a hold of the cable, you want to make sure that that cable is nice and tight in those crimps of the ferrule. Well, this here is nice and tight. Everything's smooth. It looks good. Typically, when they look good and they pass the mechanical inspection as well, they're going to perform well. Typically, that's what we see in the field, hands down. Also, you want to see a date stamp when they were last tested. So whenever they were last tested electrically, which the guidelines say you need to test them electrically, for whatever reason, they don't say how often. I'm not sure why, but we recommend every 12 months, all right? And you're going to put a date stamp when it was last tested. That way the linemen, when they visually inspect, they're going to look at that date stamp to make sure that that date stamp is in compliance with your protocol that you've established. So what we're going to do is we're going to electrically test real quick. It's a very safe tool. This is Walter Bierer. Walter Bierer is my stepdad. I call him my dad. He raised me since I was 5 years old, so I'm part of the family, all right? So he came up with this tool first, 37 years ago, and what he did is he came up with a tool that puts continuous current onto the full assembly, clamp to clamp. That's how you test them. We've been to some utilities where they were testing from ferrule to ferrule. Well, let's just take off the clamps. Let's don't test the clamps. Well, the linemen aren't going to hook up when they set up their EPZ. They're not going to hook up their ferrule to point A and the other ferrule to point B. They're going to use the clamp from point A and another clamp on point B. That's called the full assembly, TPG. So we did some schooling and they changed the work methods. Now they test the whole thing and they use the whole thing. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to simply turn this on. Walter Bierer, when he came up with this, he came up with this chart. Check this out. ASTM F855 on page 2 of the guidelines, table 1. That chart that you see in the guidelines, Walter Bierer came up with the math. He created that chart. ASTM's using his creation. Isn't that weird? That's awesome. That just shows you how good this is. This puts continuous current, okay? Some of the other testers are glorified ohms meters. This is the real deal, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to test in parallel. And what this does is this is going to mitigate any magnetic field, or at least most of it. It's going to simulate when they're being used out in the field. Because when they're being used out in the field, you want to go straight from point A to point B. So basically, by doing so, you mitigate the magnetic field. You do not want to have coils hanging on the lines, or laying on the ground, or on your truck reel. When you're using them, you don't want to do this, because this creates a magnetic field. It creates a magnetic field, and it also causes thermal activity. So it heats up, and because of that, this makes resistance. See? So you don't want to make resistance. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys real quick. Here's a magnet in here. And everything we're going to talk about today is not theory. Like this magnetic field, this is not a theory, it's a reality. Also, when we talk about the electrical reality, when you're working hot, it's all going to be proven. Nothing is a theory here. It's all real. You just can't see it, but that's what's happening. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this up to about 300 amps. And I can feel that current going through my hands. So anyways, we got about 300 amps going through this. Got a magnet. And you all see and hear what's going on there. That's your reality. All right? Right there. Now what we'll do is we're going to mitigate that magnetic field, and we're going to put this in more of a parallel. So it's going to simulate how you use your grounds normally in a field situation. It's just a little hum, really soft. So in other words, when you guys go home at the end of the day, don't open that door and say hi to your significant other all coiled up. Be smooth, okay? Be chill. You guys get that? Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. A number 2 cable is required 165 amps. So we're going to go to 165 on the amp meter here. So we'll go a little over, a little less than 180. And then you can see our voltage drop. The voltage drop is 0.2, we'll call it 0.23. And if you look at the chart, 0.24, and it passes or less. And this is less than 0.24. So these grounds are good and they passed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take them off the apparatus here, and we're going to put a date stamp, a new date stamp on this. And then you can see that this is very safe. There's very little voltage, so there's no shock potential. So like this tool's safe, the safety is in all of our tools. You'll see our tools are very safe. We'll explain the reasons behind the why, right? Okay. Any questions on the grounds tester? Last week we had a Lineman Safety National webinar, and Mr. Brandon Wiley came in and he spoke on why. That was his topic. His topic was why, question mark. The most important question. Okay, why the most important question. Brandon Wiley, he works now, he was with Electric Cities of Georgia, and he works now with Northwest Lineman College. He's in charge of their power delivery programs for all of Northwest Lineman College. So he's the vice president now. He's got a big dog collar on, okay? But he gave a great speech, and we should have the video ready to share in just a day or two, because it was last week. But anyways, what he talked about is why, the biggest question, the most important question. And it's important that we share with one another that when we are bringing up linemen, when we're bringing up apprentices, when we're with each other, even though you might have been in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years, we're still learning. All of us are still learning. And we need to make it safe to where we have our folks that they are able to ask why. Because if we do not know the whys of what we do, and if someone's question, he doesn't understand the why, he's got to be able to ask the why. Because if he doesn't understand or she does not understand the why, then he or she does not understand the how or the what. And we cannot just go into line work, just nilly-willy and just kind of presumptuous and a little guessing once in a while. You know, you can't just do something because that's what you were trained to do. That has to stop. You don't just put this together because you were told to put it together, and you do it this way because you were told to do it this way. And if that's what all you understand, and if that's all the apprentice or all whoever's coming up understands, that's got to change. We got to explain the why. Okay? So if you guys have any questions, ask me. Why? Okay? All right. So you guys use any Hornet lights? Any Hornet light tools out there in your system at all? No? Okay. So real quick, if you ever go to a system that uses the Hornet light, the battery test right here is just a battery test for anybody's tools. The safety we're going to train you today and share with you today, it's irregardless if you use our tools or somebody else's tools. It's exactly the same. No different. Our tools are just a little better, but I can't say that because this is safety training, so I won't. Okay? But a Hornet light you want to see, obviously, and here. If you do not, then just put a new battery in, take off that quick change, tap out that 9-volt, put a new, known, good working battery in, and then recheck it. If you don't see in here or one or the other, and that's it, then the tool's broken. We make all of our tools in South Carolina. That's where I live, okay? We make them all there. So because we make them from scratch, if one of your tools is not working, send it to us, we'll fix it. Real simple, okay? So an analog tool, you guys use it, analogs? Any analogs? Good, okay. They're cool. I like analogs better than a Hornet light. You get more information, all right? So a battery test, you want to see that needle deflect. If you do not see a deflection or a partial, put a good battery in it. If you still do not see a full deflection or it's still a partial, the tool's broke. Send it in to us for a repair. Really simple, okay? So a digital, I like digitals better. The reason why I like digitals better is because they give you more information. If I got a bunch of linemen with me, I want those linemen to have more information. I want them to have the very best information possible in the field. The digitals, that's what they give you, the best. The most information, the most accuracy, better information is going to be safer. All right, so you do a battery test, you simply look for the battery voltage. 8 something? Was that 8 something? 8.3. Okay, 8.3. Okay, so that's more information, isn't it? It actually gives you, it doesn't say, oh, the battery's good. It lets you know what the voltage is. That's more information, all right? If it gets down to 7.2 or less, 7.2, change the battery out. Your operating instructions tell you guys that you need to do it at 8 volts. You can actually wipe that out, and I would put 7.2 or 7, okay? Use it more. It'll still work just perfect, down to 7.2 volts, okay? All right, so it's more information. Also on care, your tool care. Again, this is with anybody's tools. Tool care is you're going to keep that probe clean. No calibration stickers, no marks, dirt, grease. That will keep it from having an external tracking, all right? Internally, what we do is we put epoxy in here and we bake it. So what that epoxy does is it holds those resistors that are at the end of the probe tip. It holds them in place and it keeps them from bouncing around in your line trucks, coming loose. And it also, the epoxy inside here keeps external elements like moisture from getting inside, so it mitigates internal tracking. Also, remember the resistors, there's a line limit. ASTM, I believe in 2009, said that you got to put a line limit here. That will remind you all, and your linemen, that will remind them that that's where the resistors are, right here at the end. And those resistors are what protects the tool from the primary power. And ultimately, the line worker behind the tool on their stick. Okay, makes sense? So always got to remember that. Well, since you know that, what you're going to do is when you're using these tools, anybody's tools, you're going to create a sphere, imaginary sphere, right here, imaginary, right? We still got those? Imagination? You're going to take an imaginary sphere and you're going to go around your tool, all the way around the bottom, over the top, and the sides. And you're going to create what we're going to talk about, your second best friend. TPGs, that's one best friend. Your second best friend is your air dielectric, okay? So when you're using these tools out in the field, you do not want to have a potential ground plane close to the meter head, all right? Or another hot phase close to the meter head. You got to protect that air dielectric. You guys get that? Okay? Now, we're going to talk about an equation, and this equation is something you're going to need to share from time to time. So remember this equation. I'm glad you guys are videoing this because this is good information, all right? What we're doing is we're giving you guys safety from a perspective of a manufacturer. So a lot of these things that we're going to speak about today aren't readily heard or known. You're going to hear things today that you've never heard before. You're actually going to see things you've never seen before. Every one of you all need to know that each one is extremely purposeful. You have a lot of purpose and you're very influential in what you do, not necessarily what you say, but what you do. And you have a lot of purpose and you're extremely important. And throughout your life, you're going to influence a lot of folks. Most of that's going to come through your actions, your deeds, not necessarily words, okay? So you're going to see some things out in the field that aren't safe and sketchy, shortcuts. And it's important that you know you have the ability to stop the job. You have the ability to speak up and have a little communication and conversation with some of the folks out there that are with you in the field, with you in the office, maybe side by side, wherever you're at, all right? And we just need to stop, pause, and just talk about things. Talk a little bit about things, right? That's what we need to do on a regular basis. So when you're using these tools, this is the equation. X is going to be the conductor. We're going to go X plus Y equals Z. It's a real simple equation. X is the conductor, energize or de-energize, it doesn't matter. Plus Y. Y is the Y. Remember, the most important question. How does the tool work? What's the Y behind the tool? The tool functionality is Y. Tool functionality. So how the tools work is the tool makes contact with X, the conductor. The tool looks at that current, looks at the current. The components inside the tool, which are conductive, that makes the tools, everybody's tools, work. They're conductive. They look at the current, and they give you a voltage indication looking at the current in relation to the ground plane. You all get that? That's how they all work. That's it. No secret. If it's a corded tool, like that PD25 there, if it's a corded tool, it works exactly the same, but instead of looking at the current through the air in relation to the ground plane, it's looking at the current through the cord in relation to the ground plane. Same thing. Cord, air, same principle. Y'all get that? So this is how everybody's tools work. It's always been that way. All right? That's the tool functionality. So if that's the tool functionality, that means when the tools are working, you're using them, the tools are energized, correct? They're energized. See, now you know why you don't want to have a ground plane close to the meter head. See? Or another hot phase next to the meter head, whether it's a corded tool or a wireless, ours or somebody else's. Everybody get that? Okay? It's real simple processes and understanding here. So what we do is we talk about the why, the knowledge. When you get knowledge, that's the why. When you get knowledge, then you get understanding the why. Then you get safety. Okay, that's where you get safety, is you got to understand the why of the knowledge. Don't just get the knowledge. Okay, you can go friggin' to college and read books, take a test, study, right? And pass a test. And you get some paper that says, oh, you got a degree on your wall. But do you really have the understanding? Do you know how to put all that in your hands and put things together and make them work out there? Huh? That's the true scholarship, or the true scholastics, right? Is when you could take the understanding and get out there and make things happen, not just pass a test. So we got the other part of the equation, equals Z. Remember that? Z. Okay, so here's what it equals. We've always been trained to go out and you look at the indication, in phase, out of phase, oh, here's your phase to ground voltage, or whatever. Okay, that's not what Z equals. Z equals first, safety. You're trusting these tools with your life. So if you're trusting these tools, not just ours, anybody's, if you're trusting these tools with your life, the first thing it has to equal on the other side of the equation is safety and accurate information gathering. You guys get that? That's it. Z equals safety and accurate information gathering. Okay, so here we got a corner pole, guys. We got a corner pole. And I get a call from a lead lineman in Illinois. And this lead lineman in Illinois, he tells me, hey, I got an analog. We've been using them for about 5 or 6 years, and your analogs, they're no good. They were working for 5 or 6 years. Now they're broken. They're not working properly. Okay, that's fine. Tell me what's going on. So the lead lineman, now think about this. The lead lineman, he's the shepherd of all the sheep. All the linemen are looking up to him, the lead lineman. That's why he's called the lead lineman. So what he's doing is he's in the bucket truck, and he tells me he's getting 13,000 volts on 7200. And you know that if you're phasing 7200 and you're out of phase, you're going to be close to 13,000 volts, correct? Close to that, okay? And that's what he's getting. So I know that he needs what you guys are getting today. Lineman safety and tool training. For the last 6 years, that's what we've been doing, okay? And they need it. So I get this is about 4 years ago, I get a plane ticket and I fly out to Illinois, and it's even colder there than here. It's in December and there's 8 inches of snow. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. But that's okay. We do an hour and a half of classroom training, and then we go outside. He gets in the same bucket truck using the same broke tool, and here's the corner pole. There's phases here, there's phases here. And he's in that bucket truck, he's back on a stick, and he makes contact with the conductor, and he's getting about 7,400 volts. He gets out of the bucket truck, and he tells me everything he was doing when he called me wrong, because he didn't understand. He didn't have that knowledge, he didn't have the understanding, and he sure didn't have safety, because he was getting an improper reading. So when you're using these tools and they're giving you a freaky reading that doesn't make sense, typically it's not the tool's fault. Typically the linemen that are using the tool, they don't have the understanding to use the tool properly. And so there's a conflict, okay? So when he called me, here's what he was doing, the lead lineman. He was in the bucket truck. They worked gloves. It was electric cooperative and they were using gloves. And he was back on his tool. Here's a corner pull. And what he did is he was short sticking. Remember we talked about keeping that air dielectric, okay? Because you want the tool to look at the ground plane. Every one of you all, you have over top of who you are a body. It's not who you are. Your body is not who you are. Your body is dirt and water. It's from the dirt, it's from the water, it's a ground plane. And when you are using your tools, regardless of manufacturer, if you're short sticking, what you're telling the tool is that you're the ground plane. That's what you're doing. So when you're short sticking, X plus Y plus U never has equaled safety. Never. Never will. Okay? Because you're part of the equation now. You need to be training your folks to be a minimum of 31 inches back away from that meter head, corded or wireless. Minimum. I like to train 36 inches, and that's where most utilities are, and that's where most utilities are going to. You're back 36 inches away. Now we have that air dielectric, that visible air gap, our best friend. And you're telling the tool that that's the ground plane. You see what I'm saying? That's the ground plane, okay? X plus Y, not plus U, equals safety and accurate information gathering. And that lineman, what he was doing is, he was short sticking. This is called improper body position. Improper body position. He had his back to the enemy. That's improper body position. Whenever you're working out in the field, you always want to consider those hot phases your enemy, period. They're your enemy. When you go home, you get home, you turn on the lights, that's where it's a blessing. But when you're working hot, you're to always consider that potential, your potential enemy, because you're a ground plane. So in other words, if you allow your potential enemy to start looking at you and start getting excited, the electrons start getting kind of happy, kind of getting excited, they starting to feel it. Maybe I'm going home because I'm starting to see home. That's why we call each other homie. That's LA talk. We don't say that in South Carolina, okay? But see, what happens is those electrons want to start going home. You give it that opportunity. So what was happening when that lead lineman, he had the enemy to his back, those electrons were coupling with him. The capacitance from those hot phases was coupling, going through his body. Now think about that, literally. Through his body, across his rubber gloves, through the tool, this direction, the opposite direction. And that conductor here, that capacitance was flowing through the tool, that current, to the ground plane this direction. He was phase to phase, out of phase. He was getting 13,000 volts. Tool wasn't broken. The tool was looking at truth. Your electrical reality. It's not a theory, okay? Another guy called me up out of Louisiana. And sometimes you can get some bad gumbo, Louisiana. And he had some bad gumbo. And what happened was, I got some pretty good jokes. You guys know it, okay? Even California people can get some of these. So anyways, he called me up and he said, hey man, I'm using a Horn of Light. And I got the switch open. And I'm on the conductor and your tool is lying to me and giving me a false positive. I said, really? I said, well, did you do a battery test? Yes. Did you, prior to use, did you test the tool on a live known voltage source? Well, we don't train that. Oh, well, why don't you start doing that? So he went to a live known voltage source, got away from his situation, went to a live known voltage source with his stick, and he made contact, direct contact, and he got that source was energized. Tool was telling the truth. And I said, well, your tool's working. He says, no, it's not. And I said, well, look, let's do a video. He did the video. He shows me the switch is open. Visual, confirmed, lock out, tag out, beautiful, beautiful. It's the truth. Here he is at a corner pole. It's got a lean to it. If you ever drive through Texas, that's what they look like. They're leaning, okay? They do, okay? So here he is at a corner pole. His back is to the enemy, huh? He's short sticking. Improper body position ×2. And he makes contact with the conductor, direct contact, and the tool's telling him that that conductor is energized. So now that you all have the understanding, let me ask you all a question. With my back to the enemy, and I'm short stick in improper body position, the tools tell me that that conductor is energized. Is that conductor energized? The switch is open. Is that conductor energized? Yes or no? Yeah, absolutely. So you guys get it now. Because you know that you're a ground plane. You know that when you're working hot, that energized source, if you are improper body position, that you become the ground plane, and it's going to go through you because those electrons are loving on you. Okay? They're loving on you.
Can I ask a question about misread? Kind of in general. So we have what everybody else in the world knows as tree wire, cover conductor.
Yes.
Okay. I'm at the end of my 6-foot shotgun. Right. Well, actually, since you're talking to us, when you say LA, right? Are you talking Lower Alabama? Anyway, so I'm at the end. I'm at the end. I'm beyond my 36 inches. Right. I'm below everything. I put that in live line test. Touch it to the outer jacket of the tree wire. I get a very minimal read.
Right, because it's jacketed, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's a big question around here is, how do I know that is actually energized?
Right, and you're making direct contact?
Direct contact with the outer jacket.
Right.
Right, and it's barely moving the meter. But what a lot of guys are starting to hear and understand, if you go to capacitive test point, you'll peg your meter. So, can you explain, how do we, with a live line test read, how do I know that line's energized?
So that is the first time somebody has asked me that question. What's your name?
I'm Tom.
Tom?
Yeah.
You sure?
No.
Okay.
Better known as Construction Mayhem.
Okay. So Tom, that is the first time that anybody has asked me that question. But before you made contact, okay, capacitive test point. So you have our analog tool?
We have them both.
Okay, so the analog tool it's barely moving the needle when you touch the jacket, but you put it in capacitive test point setting, the T?
No, I'm touching the jacket in live line setting.
Okay.
Right? In live line setting, it's barely moving.
Right.
When I go to capacitive test point, that's when it pegs.
Okay, but does it peg at capacitive test point prior to contact? Or does it, it's when you touch it?
Don't know that yet.
Okay, it's when you touch it.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, so if...
Okay.
So we did testing on it at Westminster, and as you bring the conductor or the tester in on CP, capacitive test point, it will raise the meter as you get closer, and it's pretty close, say 2 inches.
Okay.
If my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, so it's more sensitive, so that line is going to be energized.
It's not true on 4 kV. It's more true to 12 and 16 when we did testing.
Where it's higher kV.
Like I said, that's the big question is, because we have to treat it like it is bare if it's energized.
Yes.
Okay, but if I go shut everything off and come back to test it, I don't know if, you know, it's a line, so I'm going to go live line on my tool.
This is good, Tom.
So how do I?
So keep it in that CP.
Do we train the guys to go to CP?
Yes.
Every time you
On the
test
jacket.
cover conductor.
And make contact.
Is that an approved method?
Yes.
Or the capacity test on that?
Yes.
I like that. That's good.
What my concern
Yeah.
this will be, if I have half a mile or a mile of wire with no open point,
Right.
I de-energize it, it's underground cable in the air without concentric, is it gonna hold the
Will hold
capacity?
capacitance. PG&E thinks so.
So
Right. We have never proved it.
we need to do testing.
Right, we've
Yeah.
never proved it, but
That's
PG&E has had that situation where they're showing capacitance, then they go through and drop all their transformers, then they come back, now the capacitance is gone.
Right.
So that's a, you know, for us, that's a new situation we have to figure out.
Yeah. I need to get more cards. So, Tim, did you get a card of mine?
I did.
Good. So, this is great. So, from my understanding, you all want some help with the phasing ranger setup, LADWP kind of thing, want some help. Joe Bierer, my brother, he could come out, and that would be great to have him come out with you. And you guys work with him on that, okay? Because I think that's a good plan of attack as far as using that direct contact on the CP setting.
Right.
I think that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Tom. All right, so what we're going to do is, for this part of the training, is we're going to use your PD800W. Your PD800W is it has two functions. One function is a digital voltmeter. And so when you're checking for hot or not, it's a good tool to use as a digital voltmeter. Very accurate, wireless. So we're going to go over that function first so you're more familiar with your tool that you already have. So for this safety presentation. So what we're going to do is, if you're using it as a voltmeter, you always want to put it in the URD position if you're close to the ground plane, right? Because you know how these tools work. It'll be more accurate for you in the URD position. If you're working overhead, you're far from the ground plane, you're going to put the tool in OH, because you know how these tools function. It's looking at the current in relation to the ground plane. If you're overhead, you're further from the ground plane, you want a more accurate result, you're going to put it in OH. Very simple. We're the only manufacturer that does that. Nobody else does that. Why? Because we know how these tools function. Everybody else is still trying to learn. So they'll get it. All right. So what we're going to do is, you always want to use the proper accessory on the end of the cone tip. If you do not have a proper accessory in your kit, a bushing adapter for your feed throughs, hook probe for your lines, capacitive test points. You don't want to use the cone tip alone. That's a shortcut. Okay? The reason why it's a shortcut is, if you do not use the proper accessory, the opportunity to bypass your friends there, those resistors, is much greater. If you're on an extendo stick, if it's foggy out, if it's moist out, it's dark out, the opportunity to bypass your protection is much greater. So make sure that you folks are watching that your guys, your gals are not bypassing those resistors or a bigger chance of doing that. Always use the proper accessory. Make sense? Always. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do is, these gloves are nice and warm. Okay, so we're back feeding these pad mounts, and we're coming out with 19.9 34.5. Okay, we're going to call this an overhead line. Right there, 3-phase, it looks like it. And then we got capacitive test points. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take our tool, your phasing tool, digital phasing voltmeter. We're going to use it first for its first function, is voltage indication, okay? And we're going to put it in URD setting, because this overhead line is very close to the ground plane. These capacitive test points are close to the ground plane, and direct contact. Remember we talked about direct contact? Right there. Now, under 1,000 volts, these tools are not accurate. not accurate. It's about 400 volts on that double feed through there. Okay, that feed through. But it's giving you an indication, direct contact, that you know that that elbow is energized right there. This is 3-phase. This phase will only affect the tool. The other phases won't. Direct contact. That's what you want. I've done training all around the country, and some folks are still using non-contact tools. And those things are bad news. Those things are just a little better than keys and a wrench for fuzzing a line. You can get a lot of bad positives, bad negatives. If you're working on an underbuild, you don't know for sure what's going on a particular conductor because you have no contact. And they get influenced by all these other sources around, so you don't know what's going on with that particular X. Remember? The conductor, X. You got all these other X's. You know? Bad news, we got a lot of X's. Some of you may know. Okay? All right. So direct contact. So what we're going to do is, I never said that joke before. I haven't really. But it's probably true. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this overhead line right there. Now we take our OSHA regs, 1910.269. You go to lowercase n, again, talking about your temporary protective grounds. You go to lowercase n. Now we're going to go to number 5. Number 5 talks about using a tester. You're going to use your tester to verify prior to placing your best friend, TPGs, onto those conductors, forming your EPZ, your little protection area, your cocoon of protection, right? So what we're going to do is, in lowercase n, it says you're going to use your tester to verify an absence of nominal voltage. You all have testers right here. You have it. You have a tester that's accurate enough. We're going to change those regs, SCE. We're going to add to the foundation of the OSHA regs. Their foundation is absence of nominal voltage. Well, SCE, because you guys got good tools, they happen to be Bierer Meters, that we're going to add 2 more voltage that we're going to look at the absence of, induction and backfeed. Okay? So every time when you're out in the field, you're going to use your tool and you're going to look for and train that the folks are going to look for an absence of not only the nominal voltage, but the induction or possible backfeed as well. Okay? So all 3. Okay. So what we're going to do is, so we're going to make those regs a little bit better for your system and safer for your system. So normally we're going to do open, test, ground. You're going to isolate, right? And then you're going to test, and then you're going to ground. But how we're going to do it is we're going to take it a couple more steps. We're going to add to our system a little more safety. And yeah, it's going to take us more time to do the job and accomplish our goals of that day. But guess what? When we're done with the day, because we took a little more time to accomplish those things that we have to do, that work order we have to do, we get to go home. You don't know how many guys. In the last 30 days, we have lost like 7 linemen in this country. Well, 1 in Canada. Okay? 7 of our brothers are gone in the last 30 days. Do you guys know that? I think you guys understand that. Very close. Okay? And it's ridiculous. It's got to stop. And we are part of that stop. That's why we're doing electric culture of safety. We're forming a line team. There's no more walls, there's no more borders, there's no more nothing. You guys got your system, that's great. But we're going to share things and make it open. Brotherhood. Brothers share with brothers, and sisters share with their brothers, and vice versa. So we're going to go ahead, before we open, we're going to use your tester, and we're going to make contact on a live known voltage source, because we did the battery test, right? But did you test your tool on a live known voltage source? Well, that guy in Louisiana didn't. He thought the tool was broken. Well, we have the opportunity of a live known voltage source. So we're going to take it. But the biggest reason why we're going to test first on a live known voltage source, it's not to test your tester on a live known voltage source, which is very important and a must do. But the biggest reason is on this job site, I'm with Mr. Tim, and we had the tailboard, all right? We had the job briefing. We did a JSA. We did all these things. But Mr. Tim, on this job here, we're going to call this the middle overhead line. This middle overhead line address right here is Tim and I are going to verify our heads in the game. And we're going to verify, I'm going to verify with him, he's going to verify with me that we have mutual accountability at this job site. Mutual accountability. In other words, what that means is, it's very simple, is he's going to be watching my back every moment. And it also means that I'm going to watch his back every moment of that job. All right? We're going to be watching each other. That needs to be on that job brief. When you sign off on a job brief, you don't sign off on nothing. You are confirming a covenant, an oath, as far as being a line worker. Okay? It doesn't matter, you know, crew relationship, does that affect crew safety? Yes or no? Does it? Crew relationship? Absolutely. But that's got to stop. Tim don't like me. I don't like him. We don't like each other at all. Okay? I'm a young buck and he's an old codger. Okay? We don't get along. But folks, crew relationship does affect crew safety. But when we sign on that job brief, when we sign a covenant. In other words, when you're a line worker and you work as a lineman or a line lady, you are in covenant. I am in covenant with Mr. Tim. Mr. Tim has every right to go home to see his family and love on his... You got grandchildren yet? No? I'm just kidding. To love on his family and his family love on him, irregardless of my relationship with him. And he has to do the same thing and agree on this job site. We're going to test hot. We're going to make it real right now. We're coming down because we don't like each other, but we got our covenant, and I'm going to confirm I'm mutual accountable to him this day. He's going to do the same to me. And that's on the job briefing. And we're going to agree. We don't sign off on job briefings. We agree to what that job briefing says. You guys get that? There's a difference. There is no signing off on nothing. If you want to sign off on something, go get, you know, Chick-fil-A. Sign off on it. Suck it down and see what happens in half a day. Okay? All right. So we're going to test hot. See those numbers right there? That's awesome. A non-contact tool, I've done it. Brand new out of the box. 2 feet away from 20,000 volts. Mushroom, potato smasher, whatever food you like to eat the most of. I'm getting 69,000 volts. First of all, not accurate. Why? Because they don't discriminate whether you're far from the ground plane or close to the ground plane. And I don't know, I'm on 3-phase here. I don't know what phase is what. The one I want to work with, I'm on an underbuild, the one I want to work with, supposed to be de-energized, but I'm getting some crap on my tool. And it is crap. Direct contact. That's what you always want. Okay? Your PD 800W is pretty accurate. So we tested on a live known voltage source. We're on 19.934.5. We're getting about 20,000 volts. We know, 1, it's energized. 2, the tool is calibrated pretty well. How often do you calibrate? We recommend once a year because we got to say something because we built it. But if I'm using this tool for 20 years and I'm getting pretty accurate results, the tool's telling me it's calibrated. Huh? True story. So think about that. All right? So it's pretty accurate. So what we're going to do is we're going to test first for the 2 reasons we talked about. now 3. Calibration, right? So you test first. Then you're going to go ahead and you open that switch. You're going to open that switch. You got to lock out, tag out, confirmed, open, air gap, air dielectric, your best friend. Take care of her. Then what did I do there?
Quick.
Man, lickety split.
Wow.
Cat-like reflexes. All right, so then we've got to open air gap, and then what we're going to do is we're going to test, right? 3 steps. Third step, test. The tool tells you that, guess what? You have no nominal voltage, an absence of nominal voltage on that conductor. That's awesome. But remember what we're training. SCE brings it to a new level. We're also training that we don't have any induction. We also are training that we don't have backfeed. A lack of all 3, because you got tools that are accurate to do that, okay? Then the 4th step is going to be to test the tester on a live known voltage source. So we have a 3 kV power supply, works great. This is kind of the older school. We came out with a handheld power supply. It's kind of more convenient, works great too. So test the tester. Make sure it's working. Okay, test the tester. You get that, Dan? Okay. Test the tester. That's the 4th step. If you're on an outage, if you're on storm, and you know you have to test the tester prior to use, and you don't have a live known voltage source, boom, live known voltage source. Okay, every time. And to verify Tim's mutual accountable to me today, I'm mutual accountable to him, live known voltage source. And we're going to talk about things, okay? And then what we do is our 5th step is ground, okay? Yeah, we take a little extra step. We're a little slower. We have more safety procedures in place than we did 20 years ago. But guess what? If you look at human performance on the job, injuries, the small stuff has gone down. They have. But if you look at what we've been doing for the last 20 or 30 years, deaths and major catastrophes, losing body parts, have stayed the same over the last 20, 30 years, stayed the same. So what needs to be changed? How can we change that staying the same to where it doesn't stay the same? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Electric culture of safety. It's a mindset. And this mindset, this safety, it is not just the safety. Anybody here is in CUSP, Certified Utility Safety Professional? Anybody? No? Are you? No?
Great start.
You're going to start?
Great start.
Safe start? Okay. No, but it's a start. Okay. Okay, cool. So guys, what's your name, sir?
Charles.
Charles? Charles is a safety coach. All right, you all are a line team. You guys get that? You're a line team, and the goal is to win the game. The only way to win the game, period, and there's only one way to win the game, is everybody comes home safely. So Charles here, he is simply a coach, safety coach. But every one of us, Tim, the SCE, the CEO of SCE, the groundmen, the up-and-coming apprentices, all of them are safety people. You guys get this? Every one of you guys need to be a safety person. All of you, because we're a team. And the only way that we're going to come home and win this game is if all of you guys are in it to win it. In order to be in it to win it, all of you guys got to be thinking safety. Charles is just a coach. I was at APS a couple of weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. We had all their districts come in, everywhere. I mean, they got friggin' Flagstaff down to Douglas on the border of Mexico. They got things everywhere, footprints scattered around Arizona. And that's where I originally lived at for 50 years. It's a great state. Good hunting, too. Bull elk, man, with a bow, that's the best. All right? But anyways, check this out. They started a program, and their safety folks, They literally call them safety coaches. I couldn't believe it. They call them safety coaches. That is so cool. It's like, I can't believe you guys get this, and they get it. And they have a great program, and they're bringing in safety to where safety is equal amongst everybody, including the higher ups. But it was neat to see, to feel that right here, okay? That was good. So, what we're gonna do is talk about another important subject. And that important subject is when you're using your tools, whether it's ours or somebody else's, and you see you're going to visually inspect your work area prior to use. And if you see that there's going to be something that's going to encroach in on that air dielectric, that sphere, you don't want that to happen because you could have an arc flash because you know the tool's energized. You know that if there's a cabinet, a tight vault that's next to that meter head, and you're holding that stick and you just get a little turn, and here's the cabinet and you get a little turn, you got a little contact or close, very close contact, you could have an arc flash. Or maybe you are working in some elbows and capacitive test points and you have a concentric, you have some static wire, bleed wire next to the meter head, you know that you could experience an arc flash. Or maybe you're doing substation and you got a corded tool and you're making contact with the conductor, but prior to doing that, you're going to visually inspect, and you know that if you make a contact with a conductor, there's a hot bus right here. That's potential. That's like full-blown potential right here. It's not a capacitive test point or a bleed wire. That's being slowed by resistors. This thing is friggin' full primary. Next to the meter head, it's happened. I got that call once, okay? And you don't want to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a 0-ohm extension in your kit. And from time to time, you're going to use it when you might have an arc flash. This 0-ohm extension is arc flash prevention. Does that make sense? Okay? And a lot of the utilities, what's so cool, a lot of utilities are doing this. Consumers Energy, 0-ohm extension. Encore, just this last 2022, 0-ohm extension, because they had some arc flashes. And they didn't realize and they didn't know how the tools functioned. We did a little training, they learned how the tools function. Oh, well, so we don't have any more arc flashes, we're gonna get a 0-ohm extension. And they did, and that we don't hear from them no more. Okay, so let's do that and let's see what happens now. Is it getting warmer over there in the sun? I'm starting to kind of feel it on the shadow of this glacier. Starting to feel it.
I don't think any of us really carry those type of test heads.
Right here?
Yes.
The bushing adapter?
Bushing adapter, yeah.
You guys don't have bushing adapters? Do you guys go to the feed-throughs? Go hot feed-throughs? You do? But you don't use bushing adapters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Capacitive test.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But if you ever go to a hot bushing, make sure you use a proper accessory. Okay, bushing adapter. We make them. You can get them. Okay.
Why not make the PE 800W with the extension in it already?
No, the reason why is because it's a little heavier. It's a little heavier, and you don't need it all the time. But when you do need it, you just add it. So it sits next to it in your kit. That's all. Okay, good question. All right, so here we go. 0-ohm extension. All right, you all see those numbers now. Before the 0-ohm extension, remember what they were? A little over 20,000. Remember that? Okay, so now, put this down. Now, they're a little less. Is that correct? Well, does that make sense? Because you guys know how these tools work, right? So this makes sense. So the tool's telling you something has changed. See how the tools speak to you? when you realize how they function and you're in different scenarios, different positions, your equipment, different positions of body, right? The tools tell you these things. And so you get to go. It's like learning how to dance, man. You get good at dancing. Okay? That's what happens. So 2 things have taken place now with the zero ohm extension. 2 physical things have taken place. Remember how the tools function. What 2 things have changed? Distance from source. Yes, because that's how they work, right? They make contact with the source, and the tool looks at the current in relation to. Okay, so what's the second thing that's changed? Well, we're further from the source and
Arc, potential arc.
yeah, well, yeah, but the ground plane. Okay, so the numbers are lower. You see how that works? Okay, so when you use your tools, the wireless tools especially, you have a vertical stack. Anybody's tools. You have a vertical stack. Make sure that you use your tools properly. Proper tool position now. There's proper body position you got to be thinking about. There's proper tool position you got to be thinking about. So now we're talking about proper tool position. You're going to come in with your tool at a 90-degree angle from those other phases below and above. And you want your tool to come in at a 90-degree angle from the phase you're making contact. It's a long source, let's say. You want a 90-degree angle from the long source as well, or close to it. Doesn't have to be perfect or exact, but kind of close. Let's say you have a pole. There's a pole right here. There's a pole here. There's a pole ground on that pole. If I'm close to that middle phase, I got it on OH, overhead, but yet I have a pole ground next to the meter head. Will that number read higher than it probably would normally read? Would it? Yes. Okay, we did training in Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative in Benson, Arizona, where I went to school in St. David, which is near Benson. St. David, a little teeny school in Arizona, and did training for them about 4 weeks ago, and they called me up a couple weeks ago, and they said, hey, we got 3 conductors, 7,200. 1 conductor, we're getting 70, the middle, we're getting 7,800 volts. The other conductors, we're getting close to 7,200. The middle one is giving us about 7,800. What's wrong with our system? Now, I just gave them training. So do you think that middle, it's a little higher reading than the upper and the lower? Do you think that middle reading, the meter head was getting some of the capacitance from those other phases? Yeah, and the tool tells you that. It's not that the system's all screwed up. The tool's telling you, hey, I'm seeing some of those electrons from those other sources. See how that works? Okay, horizontal stack, everything's exactly the same, but you just got to turn your head sideways to get it. But it's the same principle. Okay, all right? All right. Real quick. So I was doing some safety training in Tennessee. And in Tennessee, this is several years ago, in Tennessee, these guys told me that there was an arc flash. And what happened was there was a couple linemen working on a cabinet, elbows, and they were working hot, and they knew they were working hot. And one guy was on a stick, working the elbows, had his air dielectric, right? The one other guy noticed the cabinet was loose from its foundation. So just remember, you all always need a good foundation in your life. That's important. So he took his gloved hand and he went to the cabinet. When he went to the cabinet with his gloved hand, what he did is he kicked the air dielectric to the curb. And he trusted his gloves, a good friend. And sometimes a good friend can let you down. But air dielectric, she won't let you down. So always take care of your air dielectric. And what they did is they said the reason why he got arc flashed, he spent some time in the hospital, didn't lose no body parts. The reason why he got arc flash was because there was rat piss in the cables. That's what they told me. And I told them that that was a escape rat. So what happens is when there's an incident, people don't like to talk about incidents. That's the exact opposite of where we need to be as a company. That's the exact opposite of electric culture of safety. We don't talk about things. We just sweep it under the rug, pay out some money. Oh, we got a little incident taking place, and nobody learns nothing. Nobody learns knowledge. Nobody gets any understanding of what happened about this young man getting arc flashed. And then what happens is these incidences continually to repeat. Nobody learns nothing, and that level of catastrophe, the level of death stay the same because we don't talk about it. We ignore it. And okay, ignore going down the freeway, going on the speeding, huh? You ignore that, you're going to get a ticket one day. Is that right or wrong? You're going to get a ticket one day, and that's the truth. Okay? Now you guys see these numbers? This is what I showed those two guys that told me about this incident. You see those? I got gloves on. What happens? What's happening? They're going up? Now you guys know your electrical reality when you're working hot. You know for a fact how the electricity works. You know that you could be Gumby, all rubbered up, all right? You know that when those electrons, when they see the ground plane, they get excited. Did they or did they not get excited? Yeah, they did. And you know that when you're working hot, that you are coupling with that capacitance to some measurable degree, even when you're working safe. You guys know that? When you guys are working safe, you guys are energized to a measurable degree from your work. So if that's the case, you always want to work safely. Because even when you're working safely, you're energized. Is that crazy? But it's true. Okay? All right. Mr. Tim, yes, sir. Can you help me?
Sure I can.
Okay. But I want to talk to you guys real quick about some psychological safety. Just some notes, that there's things that I observe, things that I hear. And so this is going to be a little change up, and I like changing up things to keep it more dynamic. But you got a safety meeting. We're in a room, a gathering room here. We're going to have a little safety impromptu meeting. And in this meeting, so we're having this impromptu safety meeting, or it's a scheduled safety meeting. Either way, it don't matter. And what we're doing is we're all in this room, and maybe Mr. Tim speaking, okay? And we got some journeyman linemen, 20 years, 30 years in the business, okay? And the journeyman lineman's in the back of the room. Now think about this, 20, 30 years in the business. He's in the back of the room. He's sitting down in a chair in the back, okay? Journeyman lineman. Remember I talked to you guys about your actions speak louder than words, right? Remember that? Journeyman lineman. Safety meeting's going on. You guys are doing the safety meeting. I'm a journeyman lineman. You got apprentices in this room. They're watching this journeyman lineman in the safety meeting, in the back of the room, with his hat covering his eyes. He's on his phone during the safety meeting. A month later, you got an apprentice. 6 months later, you got another journeyman lineman in the back of the room on their phone, hat over their eyes. Safety meeting. Do you guys see how this goes? Huh? That needs to be called out. If you're going to have a safety meeting, what are we doing? Are we brothers all together, sisters all together? Yes or no? And see, when you guys have a safety meeting, and these hats are free if you guys want a hat. When you guys have a safety meeting, you got to have a safety meeting. And you got to be one. If there's one fella, one lady that's in that edge of that room and not participating, and you know what I'm talking about, and they're not participating, you are not having a safety meeting yet. Half hour goes by, and that person is still not participating in the safety meeting, you still did not hold a safety meeting yet. You're having it, but you're not having it. You think you're having it, but you're really not. And the reason why is because participation in safety on line work has to be 100%. And if it ain't 100% when you're out in the field, will you get 100%, yes or no? No. It never has been. Huh? You guys got to pay attention. This is serious crap that you guys do. There is no room for little wiggles and little squirms. You either do it or you don't. You guys get that? This is serious, man. It's what, the 8th most dangerous profession in the world? And we got people that aren't participating in the safety? If you want to get on your phone, why don't you just call a day off? Say you're really sick, and you just get on your phone on your sick day. How about that? That works for me, because when we're together on the line crew, if Tim doesn't give me 100%, I don't want to work with Tim. If Tim is the one that was in the back of the room on his phone with his head down, I don't want to work with this guy, because he's sketchy. I could die, or maybe he dies, and then I got to live with it, because he's in the back of the room with his hat covering his eyes. I got to live with the fact that he's dead. I was watching him, but he made a mistake because he wasn't paying attention because he was on his phone. I'm watching him, and before I could say something, it's too late. And now I am part of the blame. So they do the investigation, root cause analysis, and it's like, oh, root cause analysis? What about all the times when Mr. Tim was in the back for the last 2 years on his friggin' phone? You want to talk about root cause analysis? Let's discuss root cause analysis for real. Huh? Stop being pretenders. We're starting to look, we look at all these things that could be root cause analysis. What about this thing? That could be root cause analysis. Guys, after 6 years of doing this is why folks are dying. This is why folks aren't coming home. This is why line workers are losing body parts. It is right here. It has nothing to do with the lack of safety meetings or safety trainings. You guys could put safety training and safety meetings in your mouth all day long, and you got a big safety belly that's about to give birth. You get one safety meeting in, and it's like a sausage factory, and then one safety meeting comes out. Huh? It doesn't make any difference, and I'm being honest, and you guys know I am. It doesn't make any difference until it is real in you. And 1% sitting in the corner ain't going to work in this country, in this on your system. I don't want to work with 50%. I don't want to work with 50%. And Tim, he's 100%, and if I'm 50%, he don't want to work with me. Would you blame him? If I'm the guy sitting in the back, not listening to the safety meeting, and Tim says, hey, I don't want to work with that guy because he doesn't pay attention, would you blame him? He's an apprentice. I've been doing this for 30 years, and the apprentice says he doesn't want to work with me because I'm in the back with my head down playing on my phone with all my girlfriends. Huh? Would you blame him, the apprentice? Would you blame him? I wouldn't blame him at all, because he has every right to speak up. Okay? All right. I'm just saying. All right. So I got lineman safety and tool training. I know how electricity works. I know it's not no theory. And what we're going to do is I'm going to work safe. I'm going to keep my air dielectric. We're on 20,000 volts. We're on an overhead line, underground, it don't matter. And I'm going to keep my air dielectric, and I'm going to be back about 3 feet from that meter head, 36 inches. I got a hand guard here. So when I'm working, Mr. Tim, he's working with me. He can visually inspect me when I'm working and verify I'm behind the handguard. Oh, I can't afford handguard. Maybe Southern Cal Edison doesn't have the money for handguards, and they put electrical tape on their hot sticks. That's fine. Get back away from that meter head, and at least he can inspect and verify when he's got my back, mutual accountability, that he's watching me, that my hand is behind that little point, that little indication. Okay? All right, Mr. Tim, you want to read the voltage on my foot? go to 2 kV because we're looking at secondary voltage. So you're going to put it on 2 kV. Okay.
Okay, going on. Got 0.1 or 0.13.
Okay, 13 volts. About 13 volts. You get that, Dan? Okay. On the back.
The back, coming on the back. 0.31.
Okay, so 31. Okay, inside glove right here. I'll make it. There you go.
On 0.27.
Okay, you guys get that? All right, so now I've never been trained on how these tools function. I'm handed a new phasing set, new phasing stick. Okay, any manufacturer, I'm handed a new phasing stick, wireless, corded, and what they tell me to do is go, here's the job order, go do some phasing. All right, wireless, recorded, whatever. And no one explained to me how these tools work, and I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm short sticking or tool gloving because no one explained that the tools are not insulated. I thought they were. No one explained to me how they work. So I just do this. I'm a tool glover. That's a horrible nickname to have if you're a lineman. Or you're a short stick. That's bad too. I mean, sit around your friends drinking a brew or something, and then everybody calls you short stick, and you're like, I got no issues. And they keep calling you that. Okay, so you don't know. All right, so I'm short stick. All right, same, brother.
Ready? Going on?
Oh, you get my boot. Yeah, yeah.
You got 0.33.
Okay, 33.
Going on your back. 0.61. So 61.
Yep, 61. Okay,
Going inside the glove.
inside glove.
0.60. So 60. 59.
Okay, you guys get that? Big difference. So I got that voltage is literally flowing through and across my body, right? That's what the tool says. So that PD25, the PD50 is the same tool, it goes up to 50 kV. This is one of Walter's 17 patents. It's plus or minus 1% true RMS voltage, very accurate. This cord we make is shielded. We're the only company in the world that builds a shielded cord for their cord. It's a cord inside a cord. We actually have a guy that custom builds these all day long on his work days and builds this. Nobody else does that. We do it because our tools are safer. And we can afford to because we have no stockholders. This cord, when you use it, can lay on the ground. It can be on a metal box. It's okay. It's safe and it's shielded. You can do it. Okay? All right.
Good question. So we have those two sticks that you're using there. For the most part, when we're phasing, we use a football, shotgun, whatever you want to call it. Will you still get the same voltage on your back? Correct.
Right here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so.
Because those are actually testing sticks.
Yeah.
So we do use the tools for phasing, at least most of the time, not always, we use those tests. I mean, those sticks.
What's your name?
Alvaro. Alvaro.
Alvaro. Alvaro. Yeah. Got to roll that. Alvaro. Okay, you got to say it fast. All right, Alvaro. So check it out. You guys use your sticks. They're insulated, right? 100,000 per foot, correct? These are too. Okay? Real quick. Show them, Mr. Tim, the voltage on that stick right there. Let Mr. Dan see it.
Get over this side.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
All right, going on. You're at 31, 32.
Huh?
33.
Okay. Do you guys get that? That stick is actually insulated. Did you all know that? Same as your sticks. Okay. Now remember how electricity works. You got an energized source. When you guys are walking under transmission lines with FIDO, okay, and you got FIDO and it just rained the other day, and you walk underneath some transmission and it just rained, it's real moisty out. You may feel a little tingle. You can hear the crackling and the snapping from those lines more so than on a dry day, right? Because you know why? Because you know those moist conditions make it more effective for those electrons that are already happy because it sees the ground. The lines are way up here for a reason. They're way up here, high voltage, those transmission lines, because they're further from the ground plane, but those electrons still see it, right? And there's still they're loosely connected, right? Those electrons, they're loosely connected, and some are still making their way. Some are, okay? So I'm at DTE. I got this trailer at DTE doing some training for them, and they happened to set me up underneath. The trailer was underbuilt, and they had transmission going over top of my trailer. I take this tool right here, I walk out away from the trailer, I hold it up in the air, it's about 4 feet above my head, I'm getting about 80 volts in the air. Huh? Huh? You see what I'm saying? Because you know how electricity works. So yeah, the stick's insulated, but is there electrons there? Huh? Same on your stick. Same exact. Yes, sir. That's a good question. I like that. Álvaro tiene muy grande ese libro. Huh? Huh? ¿Su libro mente? Álvaro, mente. Huh? All right. All right. Okay, so no one's ever taught me, I like these questions. No one's ever taught me lineman safety and tool training and how electricity works regarding using my sticks, regarding using my phasing tools, regarding anything. Okay? But I'm tool glover. So I got this tool. I go to the capacitive test point like this. Huh? I know none of you guys have ever done this, but I do it. No one's ever trained me it was unsafe. X plus Y equals me equals unsafety and inaccurate information gathering. No one's ever taught me that. But you know what? I did training once, and the guy came up to me after the training. This is good. I almost forgot about this. About 25 years into his career, and he's been doing this. Or was, ain't no more. He was doing this his whole career on capacitive test points. One day, ooh, that was good. One day, he did so without gloves. True story. And he went to the capacitive test point, hot or not, boom, he's hot. Does that make sense? Tool's energized. He's got no gloves, he's a ground plane, and all that voltage went straight to him. True story. He did it one time. He'll never do it again. He did it one time, and he didn't tell anybody on his crew that this is unsafe. Think about it. Who learned anything? He did, but no one else did. So you can't be tool gloving. Here we go. I'm tool glover.
On your foot, got 91, 93 volt, 94.
Okay.
And on your back, 163, 164.
Okay. Inside glove.
You got 200, 201, 200, 202.
Okay. So you guys, when you're back on your sticks, you guys don't use gloves, right? Okay. Let's do it again. Come on.
Oh boy.
Come on.
All right. It's gonna hurt? No.
Me, maybe.
Okay, we got 14.
Okay.
On your back.
Back.
24.
Inside hand.
We are 145, 146, 45.
Okay. See, when you're working safe, I'm working safe. I'm still coupling with my job. When you're working energized, you are. Okay? True story. All right. I got some overshoes. See these? They're rubber, right? They say, they declare super dielectric on the back. That's the declaration. So if I wear these overshoes because they're super dielectric, I think I'm Superman. So I was doing training in Georgia Power. And some higher ups there at Georgia Power said, hey, we got these overshoes. If you wear these overshoes, we bet you those numbers won't go up. And I made a bet with them. I said, look, I said, bring them over, and if the numbers are similar, then I get to keep your overshoes, and they're my boots from now on. Is that cool? And they actually made that deal with me that day, about 3 years ago. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, Mr. Tim, you ready?
We're doing outside the boot, inside the boot. Just
The top of the boot.
The laces?
No, get the rubber, man.
Okay, get the rubber.
Yeah, get the rubber.
Going on. We're at 13, 14 volts. Can you see it?
You may want to stand on this side.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, the back.
We're at 31 volts, 32 volts.
Is that almost the same exact numbers as before without the overshoes, yes or no? Yeah. Does that make sense to you guys that it is? Because you know that those electrons are still going home on the stick without these boots or with these boots. Because you know how electricity works. It's just going home. All right? Okay. Get by. Did you get the inside glove?
Did not get the
Okay. Go ahead.
Going on. We're at 38 volts.
Okay? So, again, I'm going to go ahead and be tool glover.
Okay, going on the shoe.
Okay?
We're at 83, 82 volts. On the back, 185.
Inside glove?
Side glove coming in,
Come on, man.
189.
Okay? Y'all see that? Similar, right? Pretty close to similar. That's why I got these boots. See? They made a deal with me. All right, we're going to keep going. All right, Mr. Dan, can you move over to this, closer to this pad mount? Okay, Tim, let's phase. Okay, we're going to phase off capacitive test points. So you guys do use the PD25.
So being a Trollman, I don't use this tool. Do any of the line crews here use this tool?
Yeah.
You do use it?
Well, for now, we've gone more into the wireless.
Okay. Okay. So the corded, real quick, since you guys have the corded in your system, with that tool you can also obviously high pot with a high pot adapter. You can also find the leading phase out in the field with the phase sequence adapter. It's a little simple thing. You can also test lightning arresters. You could de-energize capacitance on a conductor, or after you high pot a cable, you can de-energize that cable. You can verify your regulator neutrals in the neutral position or not with the same tool. You can also, with a 100-volt battery pack that's in here, you can also DC trace, because this tool looks at AC and DC voltage. It's one of Walter's 17 patents is that tool. And you can ID cable using 100 volts, because the tool on the other side, when it sees 100 volts from that secondary probe, because the 100-volt battery pack you put on the secondary probe, the meter probe, which Tim has, goes to the other side. When he sees 100 volts, then he knows that's that cable. Okay?
You say you can tell if a regulator is unusual with that tool? Right now we can use voltmeters if it's the right voltage. You can kind of finesse it.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's no finessing because it's so accurate. So this takes any finessing or ambiguity, or if you're presumptuous, it's gone. This tool, because of its accuracy, you go source side to ground, you go load to ground, and if you're within 10, 15 volts, whatever, you're in the neutral position. Okay? It's we call this a multimeter. Nobody else makes this tool. It's the best. It takes many tools places. And plus you got the corded shield, or the shielded cord. Either or. All right. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is turn this off. We're done with this tool for now. And we're gonna go to this left pad mount house. Oh, I didn't turn it off. Okay, we're going to go to the left pad mount house and we're going to do some phasing. I'm glad you all are recording this because there's some good points. Have you guys learned anything yet today? A little bit, a couple things, one or two? Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is at this left pad mount house here in sunny Southern California, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go phase to ground, right? We're going to, before you phase, you got to verify what? That your phases are energized, right? You're also going to verify what? Your tool's working on a live known voltage source every time. But now, Tim and I also, we know that on that job brief, that when we sign that job brief, that we are confirming that oath, that line worker covenant. He don't like me, I don't like him. But that's not why we're linemen. We're linemen because we made an oath. And that oath says that just because I don't like him or he don't like me, that the oath is null and void. No, it's exactly the same as if he was in love with me. Okay? But the thing is, guys, we got to watch out for each other. We got to write down that we agree that we are mutually accountable to one another on that job site, a new job site. And we have to, we're going to talk about it. Tim, you mutually accountable to me today, here,
Yes, sir.
now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bring it.
Are you accountable to me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see how that works? We got to talk about it. We don't just sit in a corner with our hat over our eyes. That's not what line work's about. Okay? If that's what line work is about to you, then what you should probably do is think about a new job. Because if that's what I do, Tim don't want to work with, well, Tim don't want to work with me. Oh, where's Charlie? Well,
I had a call.
Miss Kane, she says, she sees that Tim don't want to work with me. I'm over here with my hat down. Miss Kane, she don't want to work with me. Well, guess what? Dan don't want to work with me either. Pretty soon, nobody wants to work with me. Why? Because I have isolated myself from you all. You see what happens? Line work, it has to be a system. The switches have to be closed in. I have to be closed in relationshiply. So with Mr. Tim, even though I don't like him, the switch has to be closed in. If I isolate myself by these safety meetings with my hat over my eyes, then you guys need to start isolating yourself from me, because yourself might get killed because of me. Root cause analysis. Is that true or not true? Yeah. So if we have a safety meeting and we're not 100% in it to win it, then the team fails. Somebody on the team gets to be spending time on a stretcher and maybe wake up a few hours later without an arm. Okay? All right. So we test hot first. All right, so Mr. Tim, go ahead to that first capacitive test point. Yes, sir.
Line
Okay, and what you get?
178.
178. So about 180, round it up or down. All right? All right, try out that next one.
Hold on. 240 or 231.
231. So, hold on now. Keep it there. We're waiting for Mr. Dan. Good? Okay. So about 50 volts difference. So if I go to the other side of the cabinet or to this cabinet over here, and we see about 50 volts difference, do the math, subtract it, and you get your 0. Or close to 0, you're in the same phase. Because every elbow has a different semicon material fingerprint. They look the same, but they're not the same. You guys have different fingerprints. Well, part of that fingerprint difference of that 50 volt difference is because of the location, because you know how electricity works. So one elbow is a little closer to the ground plane here, the other elbow is a little higher, and just the components are different, the day is different, everything's different. So you all are all different, same thing. And that's a good thing. That's how we all gel. I mean, think about it. If we were all the same, it'd be a freaking boring place. You know, sit in a room by yourself, you get bored. Think about it. When it's all about you, what kind of life is that? It gets lonely when it's always about you. It's about each other. All right? So I'm going to go to the other side of the cabinet. You ready? Here we go, bud.
Going on. We have 43.
43, do the math, close to 50, we're in phase. If we were out of phase, instead of seeing 200 or whatever, or 100 or whatever, you would be seeing maybe close to 400. Okay, see how that works? You don't need a calculator, it's just you're gonna see this big old giant number that don't make sense. That's because it's not in phase. Okay, all right, let's go to that panel right there. That 120-208 panel. And Mr. Dan, you could go ahead and get back in the middle. And you can stay in the middle from now on. Make it easy for you. All right, here we go. So what we're gonna do, remember that's 20,000. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna be looking at this tool on secondary. All right, Mr. Tim, if you could go to that middle lug.
Center phase, roger that, going on.
Okay, and tell everybody what you get.
I got 0. It must have turned on.
Yeah.
Timed out again.
Okay, so if your tool says a funky reading like 0, the tool ain't lying.
Okay,
So
going on
just
center phase.
resetting.
On. We have 118.
Close to 120, stay there. What you get?
Got zeros across.
0, same phase. Okay, what you get?
204.
204, out of phase. All right, okay.
Coming off.
Let's go ahead, coming off. So, corded safety, this is important. So remember we talked about that magnetic field. If you're working with a corded device and you got a little extra cord that day than what you normally would have, for instance, Tim and I are at this middle pad mount house. We're gonna take this cord and we're gonna roll it out to where it's kind of parallel with itself. Kind of like that. You guys get that? So that mitigates, remember that? Mitigates that magnetic field.
We don't want to roll it on the stick?
So, yeah, the only time you want to roll the cord on the stick, this tool, is if you're high potting. So you get more accurate readings. But if you're using this tool in any other application, you've got extra cord, I would recommend not to roll it on the stick ever. You don't need to. All right? Not our cord, it's shielded. Good question. Yeah. But see, you're forming coils. So if the cord is rolled up on the stick, you're forming coils, aren't you? There's a situation we'll talk about in a minute. You'll get it on video. All right, so what we need to do is we need to make an accessory change. So what we're going to do is Mr. Tim and I, we're going to get our accessory and we're going to back away. We're going to disengage from that magnetic field because we know how electricity works. We're in a part of California where there's some roly-poly rocks. There are some little shrubberies around. And so when we're making a tool change, an equipment change, an accessory change, or maybe Mr. Tim, it's hot out, it's one of those record heat days, and he's got swamp britches. He's got to make a britches change. So, and if you're going to make any changes, well, what you're going to do is you're going to walk away from your work a few steps and make the change. It takes a little extra time, but we're extra safe. And Tim, he's going to retire from SCE, and so am I. And we're going to have great family lives. And maybe one day we'll get to like each other. Maybe. Okay? So we're going to make these accessory changes. You guys have some good questions. Okay, so I'm going to ground.
Roger, in the clear.
Okay.
On ground.
Yes, sir. Okay, Mr. Tim, you go ahead to that bushing.
Top pushing.
Top bushing. Okay, overload. What the tool's telling Mr. Tim is that he's got it in the wrong position. If you use our tools in the wrong position, it doesn't hurt the tool. The tools just tell you you have it in the wrong position. Okay, so
It's on 2K.
25 kV. So he's going to put it in the high primary position, 25 kV, and retest.
Going on the line. You got 20.1, 20.2.
About 20,000 volts. Okay, so now this cord here is part of your tool, right? Remember, we're training each other to always be 36 inches away from the meter head. Well, your corded device, the cord is part of the tool. So you need to try to stay 36 inches away from the cord. You guys get that? Because it's part of the tool. This cord is energized. It's not with primary power at this point. Not now. There's about a 0.5 milliamp of current flows through that cord. Okay? But you got to keep it away from you. 36 inches, whatever you train. Yes, sir.
So if he grabs that right now, does it change his read? It's a shielded cable, right?
Yeah, so it's a shielded cable. It's not going to change the reading. If I touch this cable with my bare hand, it won't change the reading. I will feel a little fuzz on that cord.
Feel the fuzz
So-
on
so
it right on my
Can-
leg right here.
Yeah, can you?
Feel it.
Yeah.
So it's not like moving up the length of the stick,
No,
changing.
no, it's not. Because I got a true ground, phase to ground reading, so it doesn't affect it. Yeah, it's not a wireless. That's a good question. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and phase. I'm going to the other side of the cabinet or to the other cabinet.
Oh yeah, I can feel it now.
Feel it? Okay, what we get?
We are at 0.3.
0.3. So we got a little bleed on that cord. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yep, little sparkly. Okay, and the cord's still safe. Again, if I touch it without gloves, I get a little fuzz on the back of my hand. If I haven't been home for a while, you guys aren't around, I may just do that. But it's not safe. It's not safe at all. Okay?
Quick question, sorry. At times when you're phasing across and there's underbuild, if the cord has to be minimum 36 inches and we can't roll it on the stick, and we have a hot underbuild, if this were to touch the underbuild, would those resistors prevent you from cross phasing or?
No. So the cord again is shielded. It's shielded 35,000 volts. If that underbuild, let's say, is 2400, 7200, it's fine. I wouldn't let it touch though.
Right.
Okay, but if it, let's say you're moving around and it just glances it, it's fine. It's not gonna hurt nothing. Okay, it's very safe cord. That's a good question. Hey guys, you guys ever ask somebody why, Alvaro? If you ever ask somebody why, you don't have to ever say, I'm sorry. You guys get this? Okay? Don't ever say, escúchame. You don't have to say that. You don't have to say, you know, start talking French, excuse-me, or whatever, moi, or whatever they say. In Europe, I don't know, but you don't have to say, I'm sorry. There is no sorries in asking why. You understand, Alvaro?
Sure.
You interrupt me. If you want to know why, I want you to interrupt. And if I don't listen to you, I'm the one that needs to say sorry to you. You guys, you get that? Okay, thank you. So don't ever say sorry. I want you to ask. And I want you to have authority to ask. Okay? All right, so we're done phasing. And what we're going to do is anytime we're done phasing, is we're always going to take the secondary probe to ground first. Always. Because when Mr. Tim pulls off, he wants that tool to speak to him. He wants that tool to tell him and confirm to his mind and to my mind, because we're working together, that tool that we are using is de-energized. So always take the secondary probe to ground first. Okay? Okay?
Heard it bleed off.
Yeah, hear that?
Yep,
Good.
20.1
Okay, go ahead and pop it off.
coming off.
De-energized.
0. Yep. 0.
Okay? How long did it take to de-energize? About 2 seconds, right? It wasn't instant. And you guys know why it wasn't instant, because you guys know that in this probe tip right here, that there's resistors. So it's going to be a little slow to get the job done, about 2 seconds. And let the tool tell you, and it did. Okay? Very good, Tim. You could go ahead and turn the tool off, and you could set it to the ground on that foot of that cone like this. All right, real quick, we're going to go over the wireless phasing. Is that all right? Real quick, because you guys have the wireless phaser. So let me get Mr. Tim set up. Do you have to go to the...
It was done. No, no, good.
Huh?
We're all good.
Where are you leaving me, man?
I misunderstood the tailboard.
We're on a new job.
I got it.
Okay, we're finished with that
Pack it
job.
up and move it on.
Okay?
Start from the beginning.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you the meter.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question back to the coordinate system.
Coordinate system.
Now, is there a way to actually use that meter side as a high voltage detector rather than having it connected with the umbilical cord or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, so can you use it as a wireless?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, I mean, just to go up, because traditionally what we do with the umbilical or with the coordinate system, which is the outdated one, because I think everybody usually has the wireless now, you would go up there and you use one first.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're checking everything hot before, and then we would, either connect it or use one or the other, but we wouldn't, go to ground. We're just using one meter
Right.
to check potential on all primary phases.
Yeah, so the question is, can you use the PD25, the corded tool, as a wireless just to look at voltage? All right. I'll take it to 25 kV and let's see. .4, so no. Got to have the cord. It's a corded device. Good question. I've never done that before.
Yeah, well, and then what bearing does it have? Because I know that somebody had asked about the powerline, because traditionally what guys were always trained to do, and again, this goes back to the why,
Yeah.
so they keep that cord off your body, off any other potentials, coil it up around
So
the sticks.
yeah, so if you're on secondary voltage, coiling it up on your stick is not going to be a big deal. But if you're on, let's say, at a substation, so let me share with this safety thing that happened. So several years ago, about 4 years ago, we got a call from an electric cooperative in Texas. They were using the corded device right here. And what happened is they went to a substation with the cord. Well, let me go ahead and attach it so you guys can see more like it's real, right? Like it's real. What happened is two linemen were in the substation and they were phasing, and they had the PD25 made contact with a hot phase. There was a hot bus next to the meter head. They had a cross flash. They had a flash. That bus was full potential. It wasn't going through any of the resistors. It was full potential going through the meter head, down the cord to the secondary probe, which does have resistors. But here's full potential. So what happened is that it exploded here. That primary power went down the secondary probe and exploded the cord at the bottom. And in between, that cord was completely fried and in pieces and blackened. All right, looked like a bad Southern barbecue. All right, so here's the deal. They were training their linemen to stay 36 inches away from their meter head. They were also training their linemen to stay 36 inches away from the cord. The cord was on the ground. But what if that primary power was coming through coils? It wasn't. Remember what that primary power does to coil? Creates a magnetic field. That cord try to jump on them, even though they were 36 inches back. If you have your cord coiled up, every time that cord comes to you, you back up. you keep that 36 inches. So good question. All right? So I'd like to use it where it's not coiled up on my stick. Not our cord. You don't have to do that. Okay? Good question. Let me turn this back off. So what's your name?
Ryan.
Ryan? So Ryan, instead of saying, Alvaro, where'd he go? Instead of saying, I'm sorry, you could say, excuse me. Okay? Because I don't want you guys saying you're sorry. Okay? Because we're not sorry here. You want to know why? There's nothing to be sorry about wanting to know why. Say, excuse me. That's proper. That's more proper. All right. You ready? Okay. You guys ready? So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, Tim. Okay, so Mr. Tim and I are going to phase. Or he could phase on his own with this tool, whatever. So what we do is we're going to go from the URD and the overhead function of looking at voltage. We're not going to look at voltage no more. We're going to go to its second function of the PD800W, your tool, and we're just going to phase. You're going to go to DEG for degrees. When you go to DEG for degrees, you're simply looking at the phase angle. It's not looking at potential. So get potential out of your mind at this point. Get the phase angle in your mind. So if you're on the, if we've got a transmission as the reference, or if we've got secondary receptacle in a house as a reference, whatever. It doesn't care about potential. And you're phasing between transmission and secondary or high side to low side. It doesn't care about potential. It's just looking at the phase angle. Okay? So that's what we got to think about. So when you're looking at the phase angle, and I have the reference on, let's say, a known A phase, regardless of potential, the reference probe is looking at the A phase as the first phase coming out of Mr. Honda. Okay? And so if it's looking at the A phase as the first phase that comes out, A phase is our 0 with the meter probe. If Mr. Tim here, if he touches any potential, overhead, right here, this is overhead, or capacitive test points, and he gets a white light and zeros or close to zeros, depending on leading and lagging power factors at that moment in the field, okay? He could be a few ticks high or a few ticks low on the tool, or right on track. If he gets close to zeros and a white light, it's the same phase, because that's what the reference is on. If you're out in the field and you just want to match your phasing, irregardless of A, B, or C, then if you get zeros and a white light on the meter probe, it's a match, regardless of if it's A, B, or C. You see how that works? So let's go to A phase. And I got the tool in DEG for degrees. If that A phase is energized, I'll see a white light, hot or not. Okay? White light. So the A phase is energized. Okay, Mr. Tim? Go ahead and you can just touch capacitive test points. So here's how it works. Hold on just a second, I forgot. Sorry. So B phase, the next phase out of sequence from A, so that's going to be 120 degrees out and a blue light. The C phase is going to be 240 degrees out. That's the next phase out of sequence and a red light. See how that works? And then 0 goes back to 360 degrees of a circle, we get back to 0.
Here's the fun part. You had to have some of our meters changed, right? The red, the white, and the blue is basically now it's red, blue, white on the meter.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So is your system red, white, and blue? Is that what you're saying? Like the flag?
We run. Go ahead, say it again. Yeah, we make it, but we make it for us. We change the meter so it reads red, white, and blue.
Okay.
We run CAB.
That's fine.
That's our phasing.
It don't matter to us if you want to do CAB or ACB or BCA. we don't care, the meter don't care. So what you could do if you order any more of the PD800Ws from us, tell us that you want the sequencing to be red, white, and blue.
That's already done, Kelly.
Okay, all right.
That's what I'm saying, because we've already done it.
Yeah,
I just don't want these guys to be confused what you're seeing here.
okay,
It's not our system.
okay. So your system is counterclockwise.
Right.
Hold on. Okay,
Okay.
so is this.
Just making sure.
I just made it counterclockwise. Okay, so we are on a known A phase. Okay, we're on a known A phase. A phase, the reference. So, Mr. Tim, go ahead. If you could start those capacitive test points over there. Okay, let's see what we got.
Going on the bottom.
The top. It's easier for Mr. Dan.
Roger. Going on the top. We are at 90, 95, 100.
Okay, so we know. Let's see. I'm trying to think. What was your, so counterclockwise, so this would be a C phase. Okay, so counterclockwise, we're on an A phase. We know your system is ACB, correct, Tom? Yeah, so this is 120 degrees out. So we know that the next phase in sequence is a C phase. This is a C phase. It says A, so it's improperly mapped and tagged. Okay, and your light is white, right? It's red, white, and blue, or red, white, and blue? Yeah. ACB? Okay. Okay, so this is a C phase, because A is a reference, and your light would be white. You guys get that? This white would actually be white, but the 120 is correct. Okay, good. Come on over here.
Top one.
Top one. Yes, sir.
Going on the line.
Okay, you might want to get a, there you go. Mr. Dan is getting upset when he can't see.
Hold on.
Okay?
232.
All right, so it's ACB. So this is 248. So what phase is this? B. So this is properly, so it looks like here our mapping and tagging has been swapped. See how that works? And this would be red, white, and blue. This would be a blue light. Okay? That would be a blue light, but the 240 is correct. Okay? I appreciate, where's Tom go?
I'm hiding.
Oh, thank you, Tom. All right, come on over here.
What they call me mayhem, like this throw the question and leave.
No, I love it. Come on.
Top one again.
Top one again. And let Mr. Dan be able to see. There you go. Okay, so you guys see that? It's trying to get to 360 or 0. Okay, so this would be your red light. And we know it's the same phase. So if we're referencing from an A, we know what phase is this. A. So the mapping and tagging are swapped. But this is an A phase, not a C phase. You see? Very good. That's good. Thank you. Okay, that's good, Tim.
All done?
Yeah, I'm going to shut down. So you all have the phasing ranger in your system, and I think you're going to be going up to the 2-pulse. All right? So that's an easy upgrade. You all need to contact us. Let us know how we can help with this procedure. If you need us to come out, fly out, and participate and help you all, we'll be glad to do that. That's what that pamphlet says. All right? If you need a hat, I got more hats because it looks like we're out of hats. If you need a hat, I'll bring out some more. Don't forget to get on eCause, share it with SCE. This is amazing nationwide line team. Okay? Who would have thunk it, right? So it's all free. Real quick, your phasing ranger, you guys go out in the field. Your base unit is already set, calibrated. So when you go out in the field, you're going to take your field unit and your PD800W meter probe. What you do is you're going to go out in the field and you use your cell phone. You're going to call using Bluetooth. And when you hear that grid data, beep, 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 in your earpiece, you go to Bluetooth and it links up to your field unit. Your field unit, when it links up, the data light goes white, and this becomes your known A phase. This is your reference right here. So every time you touch an A phase, you're going to get the red light, and zeros or close. All right? If you touch a B phase, you're going to get the white and 120 degrees out. If you touch a C phase, you'll get the blue and 240 degrees out. It's real simple. Whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise, none of that matters.
That will sync up to whatever phase you put on the other side.
Yeah, so
Base is
But
connected.
like your reference phase.
yeah, so the base, it don't matter what phase the base is connected to. It don't care. Let's say you connect it to a C phase. All right, let's just say. And then what you do is if you're connected to a C phase, but every time you touch a phase, you want it to say zeros and a red light. But you connect it to a C phase. All you got to do is take these dip switches in the back and you adjust it to where, even though it's attached to a C phase, when you come to an A phase, you want to see the red light and zeros, you just subtract the dip switches until that happens from your C phase. Okay? So once this is calibrated, you don't have to think about it. It don't matter what phase it's on. Okay? It's real easy, and we can help with that. So anyways, it's that easy to use with the field unit, your cell phone, and once you get one phase identified, then what you can do is you can shut down the cell phone, turn off your field unit, and start using your reference probe from there out. And they talk to each other, the antennas talk to each other up to 300 feet apart. On a nice clear day, you may actually, on a dry day, you can get a little further. But we advertise 300, okay? All right, it's real simple. Need help, we'll help you.
We used to have two numbers,
Okay, good.
and then if you called one number, and you talked about earlier, if you listen to the tone, if it's a busy signal, hang up and call the other number.
You guys hear that? You want to say that again?
If you call the number and then the number is busy, there's a second number you can call the second number and see if that rings. If it's busy and you're continually having a problem, what you need to do is contact engineering and let them know that if it's going on all day, it's not working, let them know that probably somebody's disconnected this device. That happens too. There's a couple things that happens with it.
Okay. And bringing that up, you can actually run 5 phone lines into one base. So if one number is busy, go to the second. If the second is busy, go to the third. If the third is busy, go to the fourth. Oh, you get a ringtone, that's your connection. All right? You can do up to 5 phone lines in one base. That's kind of cool. All right? All right, real quick. I don't know if you guys know about our battery operated high potter. You guys know about it? No? All right. Any tools that you all are interested in, you can get with Mr. John Flores, and you can get a sample in your hands for 30, 60 days. There is no cost. 0 cost. Okay? San Diego Gas and Electric, they use this battery operated high pot all the time because their work methods state that when they have new construction, they have to test that cable prior to closing in the switch to verify that there's no intentional or unintentional grounds on that new install. And they just use this. It's very safe. You don't have to have an AC source. And the battery, there is a transformer inside this tool, steps up the 18 volts to 8,000 volts DC. Very quick, very safe. Easy to use. You know, another thing you can do is you can take this battery operated high pot tool, which we didn't think about, PSE&G in Long Island, they thought about it, is you can make contact with an overhead conductor. You can go 25 miles away, use your PD 25 corded, and when you get 8,000 volts DC, that's your conductor. So it's got 2 purposes. You can ID with it too. We didn't know that. They told us. Don't you guys know? All right, real quick.
The phase ranger also, disconnect your Bluetooth from your truck.
Okay, you guys hear that? Disconnect the Bluetooth from your truck when you're, yeah, and make sure your volume's up on your Bluetooth. Okay? All right, real quick. Your ST800, you guys are using it. You guys use this for service testing, right? And it sources up to 800 amps.
Service and primary.
The what?
Service and primary.
Oh, you guys use it on the primary too?
Yeah, it's great for 6.9.
Yeah. When you're ID?
Yes.
Okay, so this does 5 functions. You can use it obviously for service testing. It sources up to 800 amps on your energized secondaries. It's about a 4 millisecond pulse. It's very quick, very hard hitting, and it does not cause any damage. As you can see, that is pulsing out of these little teeny wires. And the pulse always come out of the red lead. Remember that. The pulse comes out of the red lead, and the pulse returns back in the circuit up the black lead back to the tool. So remember that for some of this purposes and functions. So the big thing is the service test. We have these bigger clamps now. If you're on 277 480, you can test that as well. Maybe on a Delta, on some commercial. You can use these. If you want to get on the blades to use it for some other functions, these are great. Okay? You can also use this tool not just for service testing, but for IDing cable, your secondaries, with the STRCV. The STRCV works in conjunction together with the ST800. The STRCV is the receiver, service test receiver, picks up the pulse. So if you need to identify these services here, right here, and they're not labeled, and you got to remove that right bottom home and do some work on it, but keep your other customers energized, and you don't know which is which. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your ST800, which is there on the can, through the magnet on the back, put it on ferrous material, and you're going to pulse those secondaries energized. We're going to pulse back to the source through that red lead, remember? And this picks up the pulse. It has a directional arrow, that orange light. It goes right or left. That's the directional arrow. You have a little beep to it. It's a little hard to hear with the train tracks next to us, but there's a little beep. So you hear and see. And what you're going to do is you know that that red lead is on hot leg 1 pulsing into the source. So what you're going to do is you're going to go on your X1 bus to see if you get a directional arrow into the source from the red lead on your hot leg 1 on the X1. And we don't. So you know what's on X3. You go to the X3 bus, sure enough, the pulse goes into the source. Your cable is on the X3. So you go to one cable at a time, get about 6 or more inches away if possible from the bus, and you're going to have your cable parallel in that saddle. All right, so it gets the direction correct. And you're going to get it, and when you see that pulse going into the source on that particular cable on the X3, stop the work, label it, that's your hot leg 1. Go to your X2, and you know you're going to see the pulse going back to the tool. You do, and then you go to one cable at a time, you see that pulse going into the tool, back to the tool, that's your cable from the right bottom home, your neutral. Label it, turn the tool off, and then always turn the tool off when you make the lead changes. Always, you'll blow out a fuse if you don't. Take your hot leg 1 lead, the red lead, over to hot leg 2, turn the tool on, let it get up to its amplicity. Let it get up to its amplicity. And once it does, it stops counting and levels off. Then you go to your X1, and obviously you're going to see that pulse going to the source. Find your cable, label it. You're done. Very safe, very easy. Okay? My brother Joe Bierer did a video on it. Trying to save a little time here at the end. Watch it. I went to OG&E and I took that video and we did question and answers on the ST800 for 3.5 hours. Oklahoma folks. Okay? And they finally got it after 3.5 hours. Okay? Took them a little while, but they finally got it. They put one on every truck. Okay? The whole kit. All right. The third function that this tool can do is it can also identify positively your feed in and feed out at the pad mount. It's great at that. EPCOR in Canada, they love it for that purpose. Okay? You all can use it for that purpose as well. You can also, with the CT clamp, you can ID this CT clamp, very sensitive. You stuff it in the back of your STRCV, makes it more sensitive. And now we've got some primary, we got a H1A cable, H1B cable in the ditch or manhole, and we want to ID them, whether they're energized or de-energized. It does those two functions as well. So now you got 5 functions in your tool you already have. Okay? All right. I don't want to talk about it no more. Real quick.
Instead of using this, we'd use an analog clamp down.
Yeah. Whatever you guys do. Yep. Okay, real quick. I don't think you guys know about our 3-phase ID tool for underground. I don't believe you guys do. It'll ID de-energized cable for a long distance, and it goes through 2 to 3 T's, 2 to 3 manholes. Keep all those 2 to 3 manholes bonded. Don't lift nothing. The far end will be lifted and bonded back to the ground. It's de-energized, obviously. You're going to get on the center conductor through a feed-through, C-clamps, elbow grounds, whatever. And then you're going to simply turn the tool on. Can you see that, Mr. Dan? You're going to turn the tool on. There we go. And what you're going to do is it's going to verify you have continuity on A, B, and C. And it starts putting 1 pulse on A, 2 on B, 3 on C. And then you're going to go in each manhole with your CT clamp. And we're in a manhole or ditch, and we're going to identify these cables. We get 1 click, so that's an A phase. All right, real simple. The arrow points to ground. Arrow points away from the tool, right here. So that's going to be your A phase. All right, 1 pulse, you hear it, you see it. Okay, then we got 2, you hear it and see it. That's your B phase. It's real simple. 3, that's your C phase. Real simple, easy to use. We designed this for Eversource Energy in Boston, and they love this tool. They use it all in all their crap, all their underground. Okay, we got videos on everything, tool training. You guys can trial anything. What I want to talk about now is psychological safety. All right, this is the biggest thing. All right, Mr. Dan. Okay, so if you guys want to shift a little bit. All right, good. It's getting nice and warm out now. Got about 4 layers on this morning. All right, so psychological safety. This is where the biggest things happen. And so I have a friend. I have a lot of contacts with the safety industry now because of ECOS. All right, and so I hear all these stories. A lot of these stories you don't hear about. But about 25 years ago, a friend of mine, journeyman lineman, 25 years ago, he gets a call about an incident that's taken place across the border of another state. He's in one state, he gets a call, and he's got to go to this job site. He's not told what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows he has to get to this job site. He gets to this job site, and what happens is they got a man on the pole, tarp covering the guy. Okay, so they want him to go up and get this man down from the pole. He sees the red lights when he pulls up, all these people around, and this tarp on the pole. So he's like, "What's up?" "Well, you got to get this guy off the pole." So he doesn't understand what's going on. He knows that there's a guy on the pole. Obviously, he's not alive any longer. He gets up on the pole. He pulls over the tarp, and he sees this man's face. And that imprint is on his mind today. This very day, 25 years later, that same face is in his mind. Okay? So he gets the man down. They get the man down, and then he says, "You got to go talk to his mom. You got to go drive to his mom's house, and you got to tell her what happened with her son." Okay? This is what's happened. So he does. He gets to this lady's house. The lady is his sister. The man that died? His nephew. He helped get him that job just a few years earlier. That very job. He's on a single phase, de-energized. Source switch is open. They got it source switch open. They got a change of hands inside the line room, inside the operations room, the feeder. A new guy shows up, sees the switch open, closes the switch. Okay? Where does safety begin at, guys? It's at the top. It's at the top. The guy that was in that switching room, he's got to be just as much involved in the safety as that young apprentice who lost his life. My friend's nephew. Okay? He's a safety man now. You wonder why. And he's very passionate. Okay, so a few years ago in Michigan, a 20-year journeyman lineman was working. And what happened was, as they were working out in the field, they were changing out a broke pole. And they knew those lines were energized. 20-year journeyman lineman with his pole buddy. And his pole buddy took that boom and took the log out of the trailer. When he took the log out of the trailer, the boom made contact with the circuits, energized circuits. And there was no secret they were energized, but it made contact, and that 20-year journeyman lineman was in the truck getting gear. And for a split second, he took that hat that said lineman, he took that hat off, and he put on the hat that said I'm aground. And he got smoked. And in a split second, that 20-year journeyman lineman, his wife lost her husband, the kids lost their dad. So let me ask you, the guy who was his friend, they did things together, they lived together as far as life, shared their lives together, they were friends, they knew each other really well, all right? So do you think that guy that was running that boom, a friend of the 20-year journeyman lineman that got smoked, do you think for that moment when that boom came in contact with that line that he had personal accountability with his partner, his buddy that got smoked? Did he have? He's 100% dead, his friend. He's 100% dead. How much accountability do you think he had at that moment? Okay? All right, so let me ask you guys another question. His buddy got smoked, friends with the guy that was using the boom. Do you think his buddy would want his buddy, they were friends, to live the rest of his life, with that weight on his shoulders, knowing that his friend, that 20-year journeyman lineman, while he was with his wife, spending time with her, while he was with his kids, his family, having dinners and events and life, living together, but having that weight on his shoulder the rest of his life, that his friend is dead. And that his friend, his wife, lost her husband, the kids, their dad, they lost their dad. Do you think he would want that on his shoulders the rest of his life? Was he mutually accountable for that weight to be on his friend's shoulders? Huh? Because that weight is on his shoulders 100% the rest of his life. Was he mutually accountable? You see, guys, when we sign that job brief, there has to be that line on there that says that we're mutually accountable. And we got to be in covenant with that. It doesn't matter if you like me or not. That's not why we're linemen. Because we like each other? Because we don't like each other? That's not what linemen are about. So that can affect crew dynamics. You see what I'm saying? All right. So real quick, Timothy R. Clark wrote a book several years ago, and it's basically about the 4 stages of an effective psychological safety program. 4 stages of an effective psychological safety program. And those 4 stages are crucial. Hold on now. Let's take a break. Those 4 stages are important that we focus on them, and they're part of our effective electric culture of safety. And those four stages are: 1, and I'll be done. There's just 4 and I'm done. One is that it's got to be safe to be included. All right? Alvaro, you gotta make it safe for me to be included. Okay? Maybe my Spanish is not as good as Mr. Alvaro's. All right? Maybe I'm not as smart as him. Maybe I come from a background of playing video games for like half my life, and I don't have calluses on my hand. And I realize that video games are fake, and they're a waste of my time, and they're wasting and eating the soul, my very soul, who I am, because they're not real. So I decided I want to be a lineman. I don't know how to set a pole. I don't even know how to use a shovel. Okay? But I'm good at other things. I see details that Mr. Alvaro, he might not see. Even though he can milk a cow. Okay? He knows how to line up those fence posts. He knows how to take care of things in the farm. He can dig ditches all day long. I don't know how to do that. But he's got to make it safe for me to be included. Right? It's also got to be safe to learn. So I'm really slow. My mind is not as quick as some. I'm not as crisp as some. When my mama hatched me, I fell out of the eggshell and I hit my head on the ground. So I'm a little slower than most people. Okay? But Mr. Alvaro, he's a wit, man. He's smart. He knows his stuff. He knows how to work with his hands. I don't, but he is going to make it safe for me to learn. You guys get this? It's got to be safe to learn. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the industry. It doesn't matter how long you haven't been. It doesn't matter your titles. None of this matters. Those are thrown out the door for an effective electric culture of safety and psychological safety program. It's got to be safe to learn. It's also got to, you guys got to make it safe to speak up. Mr. Alvaro, he just started. I've been 30 years journeyman lineman, and he's just been going on for what? He just started as an apprentice, and he's been going on now for 2 months. And he's got a question. I'm in the bucket, and I'm telling him how he's got to do it. This is how it's got to be done. I'm in this pad mount, and I tell him how this is how it's got to be done. And Mr. Alvaro, it's got to be safe for him to ask why. Why? Or he's in a safety meeting, and I'm talking about the safety. And he's got to be able to say, sorry, but no, excuse me. Excuse me. But why? All right? It's got to be safe to speak up. It's also got to be safe to challenge the status quo. And this is where I see a lot of friction in the utilities and contractors. You know, I know a lot of contractors that don't test their grounds. I've been to their facilities and gave them safety. And they're all looking at each other. You know, they don't inspect their grounds. They're all looking at each other. And it's got to be safe to challenge the status quo. And the CEO or the safety man or the operations manager, if Mr. Alvaro, who just started 2 months ago, sees that Mr. CEO on the wayside, he's going to his job site, to his bucket truck, and Mr. CEO happens to walk in the building to get on his computer, okay? To get on his computer. Mr. Alvaro, it's got to be safe for him to challenge the status quo. Okay, whatever that word is. He's got to be able to, and the CEO has to make it safe. The operations manager has to make it safe. It doesn't matter if he's only been 2 months in this job. And I'm getting ready to retire. And I'm the CEO. I've got to stop and listen to him. Just the same as anybody else. You guys get this? It's got to be safe to challenge the status quo. All right, guys? All right. Any questions at all? Okay, I'm glad you guys videoed this. Again, get on electric culture of safety, share it. Excel Energy just endorsed it. Didn't cost them nothing, no obligation. It'd be cool to get you guys too. And you guys get all these webinars for free. Okay? Any good? I got hats. Anybody need a hat? All right, thank you. Thank you, Dan.